If you've ever encountered a Cancer woman born in July, you probably walked away both enchanted and a little bewildered. At first glance, she seems soft, nurturing, the kind of soul who would remember your grandmother's birthday and bring soup when you're sick. Then, just when you think you've got her pinned down, she shifts suddenly. She's unyielding, sharp as steel, and you realize you've underestimated her entirely. That's the paradox of the July Cancer woman, tender yet tough, intuitive yet strategic, private yet magnetic. Having spent years studying not just astrology but also the psychology of relationships and the subtle ways people reveal themselves, I can assure you these women occupy a unique place in the zodiac. They are, in a sense, the chosen ones, tasked with carrying both the gentle pull of the moon and the heavy work of holding families, friendships, and sometimes entire communities together. Their intuition is uncanny. They can read a room without saying a word, and often they know your secret before you do. Yet this gift comes with mood swings that rival a lunar calendar, which, if you're brave enough, you'll learn to ride instead of resist. A little Buddhist wisdom helps here: the tide comes in, the tide goes out. Don't argue with it. Humor helps too. If she storms off mid-dinner, don't panic, it's probably just the moon calling her. To know a July Cancer woman is to accept contradiction as truth, to find beauty in complexity, and to discover that strength and softness were never opposites at all. The July Cancer woman is, above all else, a study in contradictions, and it's those contradictions that make her so endlessly fascinating. At first glance, you might see someone soft-spoken, gentle, even fragile in appearance, but give her just a few hours and the same woman can stand before you as solid as a fortress, immovable in her convictions. Her softness is not a flaw, nor is it a sign of weakness. It's her camouflage, the way a skilled general might wear disarming clothes to distract before battle. This woman knows precisely when to let tenderness bloom and when to tighten her spine like tempered steel. Think of a crab on the shoreline. It's shell hard and unyielding, but its inside vulnerable and exposed. July Cancer women have mastered this balance, carrying the shell with them as protection but refusing to let the softness within disappear. They can love fiercely, nurture completely, and yet, if you dare cross them or harm the people they hold close, you'll find yourself staring at a warrior you never saw coming. And if you do meet that side of her, I can only assume you've either made a very poor decision or you're about to learn a lesson you won't soon forget. The key to this paradox lies in her ruler, the moon. The moon doesn't shine its own light, it reflects, it changes, it wanes, and waxes, and so too does the Cancer woman born in July. She ebbs and flows with the lunar tides, and while some outsiders call it moodiness, I prefer the term cosmic multitasking. After all, how many people can light up a room with warmth and empathy one moment and, when life demands it, transform into the most resilient fighter you've ever seen the next? The moon teaches her that softness and strength are not opposites but partners, and she wields them both with a wisdom that looks instinctual but is in fact honed through countless emotional battles. Now, let's be clear, these women are not merely emotional. To call them that is like saying the ocean is just water. What they embody is emotional intelligence, and that makes all the difference. Emotional people react, often without thinking. Emotionally intelligent people, on the other hand, pause, reflect, adapt, and use empathy as a finely sharpened tool. A July Cancer woman walks into a room and immediately senses the unspoken truths floating in the air. Who feels insecure, who's hiding behind a lie, who's quietly heartbroken, and who just desperately needs a hug. It's like she's fluent in a language the rest of us don't even know exists. If you've ever had her lock eyes with you and ask how you're really doing, you know exactly what I mean. It feels as though she's flipped to the hidden appendix of your life story and read aloud the lines you thought you'd buried. Here's where my background in Buddhist teachings becomes useful. There's a practice called deep listening, where one doesn't just hear words but absorbs the energy behind them. July Cancer women don't study this practice, they live it. They listen not just with their ears but with their whole being, with a kind of compassion that makes people instinctively trust them. This is why friends, family, even strangers, often confide in them without hesitation. Their presence is a refuge, a reminder that someone truly sees them. But before you mistake this gift for passivity, let me issue a warning: safe does not equal submissive. She may be a harbor, but she is also a gatekeeper, and she decides who docks and who drifts back out to sea. And for those tempted to test her boundaries, here's a little humor drawn from experience: don't. It's like poking a sleeping bear while holding a honey jar. She'll tolerate a lot, she'll forgive much, but once she decides you've crossed the line, you'll find her crab shell is less a piece of armor and more a fortress wall. You won't scale it, and you won't forget the lesson she teaches you on the way out. So when you think about the July Cancer woman, remember that she is neither fragile nor invincible, neither wholly gentle nor entirely fierce. She is both, and she is more. Her contradictions are not flaws but the very essence of her strength, the way the ocean's calm can conceal its depths, or how the moon's shifting light makes the night both mysterious and alive. To know her is to accept that complexity, to find beauty in paradox, and to laugh a little at the wild ride that comes with loving someone ruled by the tides. Because one thing is certain: she will both nurture you and challenge you, soothe you and surprise you, and in that balance lies her brilliance. The distinction between Cancer women born in June and those born in July may seem subtle at first glance, but in truth, it reveals two different expressions of lunar energy, two different ways of embodying the same sign's essence. June Cancer women tend to be more inwardly focused, contemplative, and reserved. They process feelings in silence, like monks in meditation, quietly sifting through the tangled threads of their emotions. Their strength is subtle, hidden beneath layers of reflection, as if they are cataloging their inner world with a careful, almost academic precision. They are not quick to show you what they are feeling, instead, they let time do the work of revealing, like waves that slowly polish stones on the shore. July Cancers, however, play an entirely different game. They are more visibly resilient, and their strength is not something you need to search for, it's right there in front of you. When a storm comes, they don't just hunker down in silence, they roll up their sleeves, build levees, stack sandbags, and make sure everyone else has shelter too. If June Cancers are monks at prayer, July Cancers are firefighters running into the blaze. They are emotional first responders, tending not just to their own well-being but to the needs of everyone who depends on them. And unlike some signs who put on strength as a kind of performance, Cancer women born in July don't advertise it. They simply live it, day after day. That's why they often become the emotional backbone of families, the unacknowledged leaders who hold things together. They'll say, "It's nothing," even as they carry the weight of everyone's crises. And while they may pretend it's no big deal, let me assure you it's a very big deal. Now, this brings us to the lunar roller coaster, and trust me, if you've never lived with a July Cancer woman during a full moon, you haven't truly tested your emotional stamina. Her moods can shift as quickly as waves against the shore. One moment she is radiant, social, magnetic, the life of the gathering, and the next she withdraws, needing solitude with the same urgency most of us need oxygen. To the uninitiated, this might look like instability, but in truth, it's not chaos, it's depth. She feels more because she is wired to feel more. The moon amplifies her sensitivity, pulling on her inner tides in ways the rest of us can only imagine. This heightened responsiveness is both a gift and a challenge. It grants her extraordinary empathy and intuition, but it also demands that she step away and recharge when the emotions swell too high. I often tell people, don't fight it, ride it. If she pulls back, don't panic. She's not rejecting you, she's recharging. Just as the ocean recedes only to surge back with renewed force, she needs time to process and renew before she can give again. Think of it as scheduled maintenance for her soul. And a bit of humor goes a long way here. If she cancels dinner plans because she needs to be with her thoughts, don't take it personally. Trust me, it's not you, it's the moon. Compete with her emotions and you will lose. Accept them, and you gain a partner who will stand by you with a devotion as steady as the tides. This is the essence of the July Cancer woman: visible strength, deep emotional cycles, and a resilience that doesn't just protect herself but shelters everyone lucky enough to be within her orbit. When it comes to love, July Cancer women are not dabblers in the shallow end of the pool. They dive straight into the depths. Casual flings, half-hearted commitments, lukewarm affections, these things bore them, even irritate them, because for them love is not a pastime but a sacred act. If she's with you, she is all in, and loyalty becomes her natural dialect. To the modern world of swipes, likes, and ghosting, she must look like an anomaly, but that's because she is. She is the woman who will not text 10 people at once, who will not measure intimacy in emojis, who will not tolerate games. Once her heart has been entrusted to you, you've been given something rare, and with it comes a responsibility to meet her honesty with equal depth. Her protectiveness in relationships can be mistaken for jealousy, but only by those who fail to see what is really happening. She is not clutching out of fear, she is guarding out of devotion. What she values most is emotional security, and her instinct is to ensure that this fragile, irreplaceable bond remains unbroken. She pours herself so fully into the partnership that authenticity becomes non-negotiable, and anyone who tries to bluff their way through will be unmasked quickly. And here's the truth: once you've earned her trust, you'll experience a form of love that feels almost endangered these days. She'll be there for you in the nights when the world seems unbearable, cheering for you when you triumph, and calling you out with sharp precision when you're lying to yourself. She doesn't just want to stand beside you, she wants to grow with you. And if you can match her, you'll find a love that is not only passionate but deeply sustaining. This same devotion extends into her relationship with family and home. But let's not reduce her to tired cliches of housewives and homemakers. A July Cancer woman is not merely fluffing pillows or baking cookies, she is building sanctuaries. For her, home is not walls and furniture, it is spirit, safety, and belonging. She is the one who remembers every birthday, who shows up with soup when you're sick, who notices the heaviness in your silence before you even say a word. She is the emotional architect, quietly ensuring that the structure of family holds even under pressure. And yet here lies the nuance that many miss: she does not abandon her ambitions to do this. She does not erase herself in service of others. Instead, she threads her personal goals into the same fabric as her devotion to family, balancing both with a grace that looks effortless but is the result of immense inner discipline. It is not sacrifice, it is choice, one that brings her joy because it harmonizes with her nature. A line from Buddhist teaching comes to mind: the true home is not a place but a state of peace. July Cancer women embody this teaching instinctively. They don't just live in homes, they create them wherever they go, turning any space into a sanctuary where peace, protection, and love quietly flourish. And yet, for all their openness and loyalty, you'd be mistaken to think you have her figured out. The July Cancer woman carries a mystery within, guarding her inner world like a chest of treasures. She may open it to you if you've earned her trust, but if you misuse that gift, the lid closes fast and permanently. This delicate dance of openness and secrecy is part of her allure. She can be expansive one moment, sharing her most intimate thoughts and feelings, and in the very next moment retreat into a silence so complete you wonder if you ever really knew her. This unpredictability frustrates some people, but for those who love her, it is part of the magic. I sometimes joke that being with a July Cancer woman is like reading a great novel. Just when you think you've reached the climax, she introduces an unexpected subplot, reshaping the story, keeping you engaged, sometimes exasperated, but never bored. That is the paradox of her nature, both open and hidden, both tender and strong, both fiercely loyal and stubbornly independent. She is not meant to be figured out, she is meant to be discovered, slowly, patiently, layer by layer, like a story whose pages are worth savoring. And if you're wise enough, you won't rush the ending, because with her, the beauty is in the unfolding. July Cancer women, perhaps more than any other sign, understand the sacred necessity of solitude. They give so generously of their time, energy, and emotional resources that without moments of retreat, they would inevitably burn out. This need for withdrawal is not a rejection of others but a replenishment of the self. Think of it as recharging the battery of the soul, a pause that ensures the light shines steadily rather than flickers out. For those who misinterpret this tendency, let me put it plainly, if she says she needs time alone, let her have it. Don't hover, don't panic, don't text 17 times asking if she's mad at you. She isn't. She is simply restoring her inner balance. And when she returns, she does so more loving, more attentive, and more present than before, capable once again of being the partner, friend, or mother you admire. Solitude is her medicine, her ritual of renewal. It is in those quiet moments, often away from the noise of the world, that she reflects, heals, and gathers her strength. Without this cycle of giving and retreating, she could not sustain her role as caregiver, lover, and leader. In truth, it is the very act of stepping back that allows her to keep stepping forward. This rhythm of resilience is what makes July Cancer women so extraordinary. Life, with all its tempests, does not spare them, if anything, they seem to attract its storms. And yet, no matter how fierce the hurricane, they rebuild. They carry emotional scars the way veterans wear medals not as burdens but as proof of survival and growth. Each mark is a reminder of a battle fought and a lesson earned. They are the chosen carriers of a heavier emotional load, entrusted with more weight than most, not to break them but to forge them into beings of greater wisdom, compassion, and strength. In relationships, they are the ones who anchor the bond when others falter. In families, they are the silent architects of stability. In friendships, they are irreplaceable, showing up not only in times of celebration but in the long, weary nights when few others remain. Are they perfect? Not at all. But it is precisely their imperfections, their moods, their need for solitude, their occasional retreat that make them real, human, and beautiful. To know a July Cancer woman is to recognize that resilience doesn't mean unshakable stoicism, it means bending, breaking, healing, and then rising again with even greater depth. And so, as we step back and look at the whole, Cancer women born in July resemble the moon itself. Sometimes they are bright and visible, pouring light and warmth into the world. Other times, they slip behind the veil, hidden but still present, still shaping the tides even in silence. They embody balanced strength paired with tenderness, loyalty bound to independence, openness tempered by mystery. They are lovers and fighters, nurturers and philosophers, all woven into one remarkable package. Today, many July Cancer women are stepping into roles that highlight not just their resilience but their natural capacity to lead, to guide, and to teach the rest of us what it means to live with emotional courage. They are not simply surviving, they are thriving. And maybe that is their greatest gift, to show us that strength and softness are not opposites but companions, like the two wings of a bird, each necessary for flight. To be in the presence of a July Cancer woman is to be reminded that love, in its truest form, demands both ferocity and gentleness, both silence and song. If you are wise enough to let her reveal herself slowly, like the moon shifting from crescent to full, you will discover a journey worth taking, one that teaches not just who she is, but what resilience, love, and authenticity truly mean.